Okay, here we go. This is going to be one take, and appreciate those brothers and sisters in our church that have taken time to speak into our community in this season that some call chaos, some call weird. They are different times, that's for sure. So I have the opportunity to speak here, and I'm going to try to keep this brief. And there will, after I'm done talking, there will be a video that follows this to tie into the story. So, first of all, I just want to say hello, PCC. Hope you guys are doing great, taking time to play, taking time to rest, taking time to reflect. So, in that honor, I'm going to take this next 30 seconds of pause and just let you soak in and just prepare your hearts for this message. So Father, we just consecrate this moment and say thank you. Thank you for Plain. Thank you for this valley. Thank you for Leavenworth. Thank you for our church. We give you honor in this, and we give you all the glory for teaching us and growing us and providing what you have provided. And we want to be grateful. Guys, thank you for places like a river, the power of it, the source of it, where it goes, the risk, the danger of it, and also the ton of joy and play it offers to people, at least to people like me. So God, we just give you this moment and be grateful for it. So back when we all last met, we met, I have it written down here, I think March 8th, and there's still snow on the ground, but Mark Judy took time to share his message on judgment, and God's been put me on that journey of understanding what the difference between judgment and discernment. And man, when he was speaking, I was thinking, God, I need to come along this where he's at. So today, my message is how judgment can kill. It can kill relationships. It can kill a lot of things in life. And I'm just going to share a bit of my story of where judgment almost killed my relationship with my dad, my biological father, William Pate. And to be fair to the rest of my family members who may or may not see this, understand that as I speak, I'm not going to give names nor imply that what has done in the past has been wrong, but we all operate in a place of hurt. We do operate of our own understanding sometimes, and we operate in seasons of life where we may not fully understand what's going on and why it happens. So with that, to PCC, my quick bit of my story. Was born January 1978 to a 17-year-old mother to a 19-year-old father. In the world's point of view, definitely was not planned, and let God work through that. But I am here, so what are you gonna do about it? But we, understanding that we have two young kids in our modern times who are, all of a sudden starting a family and trying to operate in that world. Parents divorced when I was roughly 6. Brother was 4, I think. And a lot of stuff happened that we didn't know about, but we know there's a lot of anger. But the short of the long, my father went down to Texas to be with his dad in hopes to make enough money to have a life with us. It's another day, another time, but mom did her best with providing, and grandma, grandpa being there, aunts and uncles for us growing up. The reason why I say judgment almost kills, there was a lot of wounds that happened in that relationship, And I would definitely say both ways, but definitely heavier on my father's side. And I'll explain that in a sec. But there was a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of anger that caused poor decisions. And with that said, growing up, I was told that, my biological dad was evil. He was this, he was that, he did this, didn't do that. And you believe the people that surround you, and you believe that they're right because you love them, and you believe that they can't be wrong in this process. Now they can, they have a right to their opinion, they have the right to their, what actions did happen, but in that process, they're operating out of hurt. So as a young kid and young man, I just thought, okay, if they say that's true, that has to be true. I definitely went through a season where I would see my dad off and on. In 8th grade, I went and spent a month with him down in Houston. And then after that month, we had a little flare up and a disagreement on something. And I remember standing eye to eye to him and being very angry. And then about a month later, when I was back up in Michigan, he gave me a call saying, "Hey, I'm here." And I pretty much told him off. I didn't want to see him ever again, and don't ever call me. And I'll come back to that in a moment as well, but that was a brief, quick, because of what I was told, the judgment I had built up against my father. I pretty much said, "No, I might as well just go and die. I don't care." And at that moment, I felt like I was standing up for me and standing up for my rights and whatever. What I didn't realize I was doing was I just inflicted a wound that affected him deeply. And so that was age 12. I'm going to stop and pause on that a second and go back to something I wrote in my journal. And I wrote this July 22 of 19. So the life of judgment does not bring joy, but a life with discernment brings a life of foundation, self-awareness, and confidence in who I am to be. Judgment brings no perspective for other stories, but discernment allows grace to soak in, ears to hear, a heart to feel. Judgment towards others typically brings a burden or a hardened heart and self-centeredness, and closes off opportunity. Yes, I wrote that. I think once in a great while I can come up with something that sticks, but definitely battling through a life of judgment, and again, sticking with the theme of between me and my father. So as I grew as a Christian, gave my life to Christ in 8th grade fully, and through high school, I started learning things, started learning grace. A year after Mindy and I got married, my grandfather, Charles Pate, he passed away, and encouragement of my brother, he said, "You should come down to Houston with me and go be a part of this." Well, at that time, I had not spoken to my dad in 12 years, almost 12. So grateful that my brother encouraged me to do that. Went down there, had a re-encounter, but also I came in with a heart of openness and a heart of, granted it was guarded, very guarded, but there was something about me that was excited to see him. So when I started testing this, I started testing like the people in my life, were they right? Were the people in my life just acting out of hurt? And so I chose to take on a posture of hearing my dad's story. What was his perspective in this? What was he walking through? What was he doing? And because all this time I built up all this judgment against him, and he's kind of had to go off this checklist in my mind, like, okay, you're right or wrong, you're right or wrong, or you're right or wrong. And And overall, I felt God like saying, well, that's not the point. The point is you need to learn his story too. Because by learning his story and his perspective, it started softening my heart and started giving me a place where I can forgive. And shortly after that trip, he came up to Michigan and got to meet Mindy for the first time. And at an Applebee's booth in Big Rapids, Michigan, sitting across from him, I remember saying, "Dad," or I couldn't call him Dad at the time. It took steps to get there, but looked at him and said, "I forgive you for whatever happened in the past. I like to start over and rebuild and grow this." Now let's fast forward almost 16 years in this process, in this journey, as we're walking through this. I got to a point where I can call him Dad, and I got to a point where I'm enjoying my conversations with him, and I thoroughly enjoy who he is. But there was this little hurdle I needed to get over yet. And it got to this point when I left Tall Timber to then come alongside with John and Hagnorn and Aaron Bryant with Family Lines for a short season. And in that, God was using our trips to father me and create sonship and to really allow me to go in some deep waters and to go deeper into the world of forgiveness and allowing judgment to be pushed off to the side. And after judgment was kind of like, you got to stay away, allow me to discern and allow me to hear. I needed to have that posture again. So there was a moment where I kept inviting him onto a trip. I said, it'd be fun to go do this, let's go do this. And I could tell he was hesitant, and I could tell there was something going on in his world. But basically it took a phone call of just being brutally honest, but doing it in love. And doing it in a posture of not judging. Doing it in a posture of, I'm just sharing with you, and understand that this doesn't change, our journey together. It's just adding on to it. So in that phone call, I simply just said, Dad, my hope and mission is to help come alongside other men so they don't be like you. And that was pretty bold, pretty a little scary to say that. But what that did is I wound up bringing out one of the most honest conversations I had with him. He talked about some of the mistakes he made, things that he wished he would not have done, and that things that he was sharing, things that he was carrying on his shoulders, the burdens that he had. He was talking about the struggles of walking through that, and then later saying at age 56, I realized that through God's grace, I can be forgiven, and I don't have to carry that. And it was a very cool moment. And in that brought up an opportunity for him to come on one of our Family Lines trips on the Grand Ron. And so what happens on that trip, we were doing a documentary of these other guys' stories. And, in the back of my mind, like, this story's worth capturing, but it wasn't our focus. It was like, hey, Dad, you're going to pay $800 to come on this trip, and you're going to be working on the gear boat with me. So get ready, because we're going to get that pencil pushing desk job off to the side. We're going to get you really physically active. So a lot of fun. We had a blast, and I'm going to let that story, the Family Lines documentary, tell the rest. So lots that can go on with this, plenty of dynamics. And as I told Eric, I almost have 3 or 4 messages on judgment alone. Judgment with people inside the church, judgment inside the people around us, how we take in judgment, how we view judgment, how that kind of just will kill that joy inside your heart. And so with that said, this focus is the very condensed, very, went to been in a place of hatred, to a place of conceding, to a place of hearing, and then to a place of walking, in a slow walk, a very slow walk, but it's an intentional slow walk together of a relationship. And I'm grateful that I had this opportunity, because the day he got back after the Grand Ron trip, his heart wasn't feeling right. He was walking in the hospital, and kid you not, he was having a heart attack walking into the hospital. And if he, I could think of worst case scenario, but if he didn't say yes to that trip, man, what if he had a heart attack and I never had that opportunity to actually, have those moments on the river, to laugh, pick fun at each other, to cry, to soak in, to be silent with each other. I would have just let that life of judgment be the only thing I had in my life, a perspective of my father. Now, I'm grateful that he still breathes. I'm so grateful he's upright and walking. And I'm grateful that we've had that opportunity to keep doing this. So my action step for you guys after you watch this is this. We all have our journeys. We all have our hurts, and we do have our wounds. But that's not enough to say, well, we all have this. Why do I need to do anything about it? May I encourage you to pause, ask the Father to reveal what pain you're working with. Ask him the question, what do I not need to shoulder? And then ask him, who do I need to forgive? Because I guarantee you might have wronged someone yourself. And I guarantee I have. My anger has gotten the best of me, unfortunately, through my short life here on earth. And so go through those questions, asking God again, invite him into your heart, invite him into this moment, invite him into what relationships matter to me, have I wronged anybody, and what do I need to hear? So with that said, guys, thank you. We're already at 16 minutes. I'll throw that video on, and grateful for your time. Blessings to your days. Okay, so there's plan A, then there's plan Z, and I will 100% admit that I procrastinated, thinking I'll just slap a link on there and make it work. Nope, I'm going to borrow from our DVD. All right, well, this will get the point across. Here we go.
I'm pretty sure I asked my boys to forgive me at some point, probably many times. I think I did. But I don't think I can ever forgive myself. I wouldn't even know how to begin.
Wow. There's something about a man being able to forgive himself that is almost really impossible. Forgiving somebody else is an act of the will and an act of the heart, but for me to forgive myself, I can't. I mean, I know the score. I know the facts that maybe I've not told anybody else. And you look around, you see the damage, but the humility, the submission to the grace of a good father, the acceptance of what is true, that puts a warmth to the ice of my arrogance, that begins to melt my arrogance, that says, damn it, I earn my own grace. If I got something, I earned it. And that submission and that acceptance, the stuff that real men have grabbed, melts that arrogance in me until I say, I really can't lay claim to anything. Everything's a gift. I don't deserve anything. And easier said than done, my man.
For some reason, I don't have grace for myself. I can't forgive myself. That's just the bottom line. and I can see where I'm on a course of destruction. And I'm sure that's why a lot of men drink till they die. Or they do whatever they do till they die. They just can't forgive themselves.
Do you want to?
I don't think so.
Because
Oh, I earned it.
Like my father-in-law told me a couple weeks ago, he goes, your son wants to be nothing but like you. And that really awakened my eyes to the fact that, yeah, wow, this is cool. And to know that when we talk about fishing, when we do go fishing, like when we first caught our first little salmon this year together on the banks and cuddling, staying warm, it's what I always dreamed of when I was a kid.
I just don't know. I'm probably sure it's very common, but I just don't know how I can forgive myself for the things that I've done.
If your son was going through the same thing where he couldn't forgive himself, what would you say to him?
Father say, what the hell is wrong with you, boy? Pull your head out of your backside and move on.
Is part of it, Ernie, that you're maybe a little bit scared that you don't know what life would look like if you did forgive yourself?
Well, I'm sure this is something I need to look at. This whole thing has been quite an eye-opener for me in a lot of areas. And I didn't, actually I just intended to be here and go fishing with him. I didn't intend for all of this stuff to come out. But you really felt it in here when you said, about I've asked them to forgive me, but can you forgive yourself? For me, I always have this visual of I intended to be there for them all the time, forever. And I didn't. So this wasn't just 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. When you talk it out and you look at it, you go, I was only a man. But if you wanted it, you'll follow it.
Ernie, I believe with all of my being from our time this week, your best days are ahead of you. I've met one of your sons. He loves you. He wants you to experience freedom. You radiate with joy when you talk about your grandkids. Your best chapter of your life is yet to be written.
These times where you can't forgive yourself. You're not that guy anymore, are you?
No, it's been,
You're not that guy.
no.
You're a new creation. Let that guy go.
Real when I get this one, I and that was awesome. Give my son a high five on the first time.
That's awesome.
Ever. The end of the chapter is not written. Things keep changing. I keep changing. I would have never imagined this moment in my whole freaking life. Never.